Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge I'm speaking to you from the traditional territory of Songhees and Lekwungen people. I have scheduled this briefing to highlight the work we are doing to make it easier for businesses to extend the length of temporary layoffs and to talk about critical upcoming deadlines. As we know, the pandemic has created unprecedented challenges across our economy. One such challenge is keeping workers who are temporarily laid off connected to their workplaces to avoid permanent layoffs. It is in everyone's best interest to keep these relationships intact so we can build an economic recovery that works for everyone in BC. It is good for employers to be able to recall their trained, valued, knowledgeable, experienced staff, and it is good for workers to continue to have access to their jobs, work-related benefits, while the businesses restart. When the worker is permanently laid off, the businesses lose its ability to restart quickly. It must hire, train, and supervise new employees, and this takes time and resources. We recognize the current circumstances have been hard both for workers and employers, and we're doing everything possible to support them both. This spring, employer told us they needed more time to get back to business, so we extended the temporary layoff period from 13 to 16 weeks. We extended the temporary layoff period a second time in late June to give employer more time to recover before recalling staff. Now, with 24-week temporary layoff period set to expire August 30th, 2020, we have put in place a simplified online process. I must repeat this. The 24-week temporary layoff period set to expire August 30th, 2020. Employers with support from their workers can apply for further extensions to the temporary layoff period based on the individual circumstances of their business. This is a critical time where we are 2 weeks away from the deadline. We are encouraging all businesses who are interested in this option to apply as soon as possible before August 25th to get their variance decision by August 30th expiry date. All businesses who need to extend the temporary layoff period beyond August 30 should begin the process now if they haven't already. We have seen a steady increase in applications over the past weeks. The applications are coming in, and we are expecting that to increase as we approach the deadline. Businesses don't have to worry they won't understand the process or can't get help. The Employment Standard Branch has people who are ready to help answer any questions a business might have. We have ensured sufficient surge capacity, up to 70 additional staff who can help guide all employers through the process, from a mom and pop shop with only one employee to large employer with multiple locations. We also recognize that the larger sectors such as gaming, tourism, hospitality, nightclubs, bars, restaurants may have a greater need to extend the temporary layoff period as they comply with provincial health officers' direction for safe operations. We have made the process easier for employers and employees alike. We have eliminated the time-consuming paper-based process, which means no more sending documents by snail mail. We included a sample letter for employer to use when seeking worker support for those applications, as well as an electronic voting form survey their impacted workforce and help workers respond with informed consent to the new extension. Over the past several weeks, my ministry has engaged with a broad range of employer organizations representing more than 150,000 businesses, tourism industry organizations, retailers, local governments, Board of Trade, hotel, restaurants associations, casinos, workers, advocacy groups. We continue to do stakeholder outreach to make sure that everyone knows about this extension opportunity and has a chance to apply before August 30 deadline. For some, missing this deadline could result in significant severance payments due to temporary layoff becoming permanent layoffs, which could make their restart even more difficult. I want to make sure employers who are not yet ready to resume business can stay connected with their workers, likely workers who help build those businesses. Most of all, I want to make sure that ordinary workers who want to keep their jobs have every chance to do so. And I'd be glad to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Minister. The Minister will now take your questions. Just a reminder to the media on the phone, please press *1 if you have a question. Everyone asking a question will be given one question and one follow-up. And one last reminder to unmute your phones. You will not be audible on the line until you're called upon. We'll start with Lisa Cordasco from CHLY. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my questions, Minister. Are you finding, in your past experience at looking at this temporary layoff extensions, are you finding it is workers or employers who are clamoring for this? And can you also give us some indication of how many employers have applied for this in the past months?
I think it's important, as I said earlier, to keep that connection between employer and employees. Employees will benefit from their recall opportunities to go back to the jobs when the business reopen. At the same time, employer benefit to have those employees available, their experience, their skills that are needed, and that is a must in order to win back the confidence of their customers when they reopen. So it's a win-win situation. And also the employers don't have to come up with a large amount of money, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases, in severance packages when the temporary layoff become permanent and the money that they may not have right now. So I think it's a win-win situation. Both will benefit from the extension if they need it.
Do you have a follow-up, Lisa?
Yes, thank you. As you are, I'm sure you're aware, Minister, there are 30 people on a hunger strike right now at through United Here Local 40 who are calling on your ministry to extend their recall rights for hotel workers to up to 2 years. What is your response to their request?
I fully sympathize with the needs of those workers who are outside of the legislature right now and those who are asking for their jobs retention, recall rights. It's unprecedented times that we are going through. The pandemic hit us without any notice, as we all know. Businesses got shut down without knowing when they will reopen. The workers lost their jobs, not knowing when they go back. I can tell you, personally speaking, I've been there. I know it's one of the worst time a worker can go through when they lose their job in the first place and then not knowing if they're going back to work. Their payments to run their household continues, rent payments, to raise their children, buy grocery. Those costs don't stop. So I fully understand and I really sympathize with the workers who are asking for their connections to maintain with their employers. So I expect all those employers that they rehire those workers back, because these are the workers that help you build those businesses. You need their experience. You need their skills in order to win back your customers. You need to win the confidence of your customers. And one way to do that is to have those experienced workers to back on their jobs to provide the service that the customers need. And I met with those workers yesterday. I listened to them, fully understand their concerns. And I have, it's a complicated process actually, because many of them have collective agreements in place, and those collective agreements have recall rights in them. Some have 6 months, others have longer periods. But I have hired or appointed a renowned lawyer, Sandra Bannister, to look at the situation at hand, talk to all stakeholders, unions. There are about 7 different unions that represent workers in the hotel industry. They are non-union workers. Talk to the businesses, the associations, and come back with the report about her finding. And I think we'll take that step after I look at those recommendations or the report that she would provide us by August 20th.
Next, we'll go to Rob Shaw, Vancouver Sun. Go ahead, Rob.
Hi, Minister. Has your branch rejected any Section 72 variance applications so far? And what kind of things have you seen or would see in an application that would make them not approved when you're reviewing them?
I think there are certain requirements under the Employment Standard Act. Under Section 72, the majority of the impact workers must agree. An employer agree, so they make joint application. And the Employment Standard Branch then will verify the documents that they need in order to make sure that they comply with the intent of the Act. And once that is done, the approval is given. We have a number of applications. A number of them have been approved. Others are in the process. I'm not sure if any application have been rejected yet, but as long as they comply with those required components of the Employment Standard Act, the applications are being approved.
Do you have a follow-up, Rob?
Yes, thanks. Just what would you say to employers who maybe are leaving this to the last minute? If they get caught up in not doing this in time, not getting it submitted in time, not getting it approved in time, what happens on September 1st or September 2nd if they just don't meet that end of August deadline? Is there an immediate reaction? Does something have to occur? Does that take time? What happens to somebody who just kind of fails to meet this deadline?
I think, Rob, that's why we're reaching out time and again through their representative, all business associations. 150,000 businesses are being represented by the businesses that we are reaching out to, and we're making sure that every business know what the deadline is and what the consequences are if they don't apply and get approval by August 30th, because the temporary layoff will become permanent layoff. Then the employees will be entitled to severance packages. And that is a huge risk the employer will take if they don't apply and get the approval before August 30th. And that's why, again, today I'm emphasizing time and again that apply by August 25th or apply as early as you can, but no later than August 25th, so that your application is approved by August 30th, and that then you're not under risk of coming up with tens of thousands of dollars, depending on your size, in severances, and you lose that connection with your employees when you reopen, and you lose their experience, their skills. So it's important for them to apply before the deadline. Our recommendation is apply as early as possible, as others are doing it. It's a very simple process in order to meet the needs and the demand of the employer. To simplify the process, it takes about 3 days now to process and approve the application. And so I think those employers who have actually used this process, we walk them through. They like it. It's simple and it's easy to use. So I'm asking all of them to apply. Don't take any risk.
Next is Laura Brahm from CFAX. Go ahead, Laura.
Hi. So when in the application you have to estimate a recall date. So if that date that you estimated starts approaching and the business realizes they're still not ready to recall their employees, is there an option to extend that, or does the employer then have to resubmit a brand new application?
So if they apply before August 30th and they get their approval before August 30th, it's based on their estimate times of reopening, and that's one of the requirements that they must put in the application when how long the extension they're asking for. But say that extension is not enough, they found out later, they could reapply for further extension, provided that the workers agree, majority of the workers who are impacted by that decision agree to apply, and they together apply, and then that application will be processed, and possible extension will be given at that time as well.
Do you have a follow-up, Laura?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on you said if the majority of employees agree. So what happens if you don't meet that 50% criteria? Do you then have to lay off employees and give severance to them, or what's the process there?
Yes, so I think that's a unique provision of the employment standard we have in British Columbia. Not very many other jurisdictions have it. Section 72 allow majority of the workers to agree with the employer and apply for variance of temporary layoff. And so I think it's to protect the workers and their rights, at the same time accommodate what the business needs might be. So I think it's a win-win situation when they both agree and both apply together, and that's the purpose of this.
Next is Shannon Waters from BC Today. Go ahead, Shannon.
Hello, Minister. We've seen some reported circumstances of employers contending that the pandemic sort of supersedes or negates recall rights at this point in time, and have notified workers that, they've been terminated and they are not entitled to any compensation on that front. Many of them within industries that are unlikely to recover for years at this point. I'm thinking of the hospitality sector specifically. What kind of protections are available for those workers, and what are the potential consequences for employers?
Well, I think the employment standard provisions apply if the workers feel that their rights, their benefits aren't being paid, or their rights are not being upheld by the employer. They will go to Employment Standard Act and launch a complaint, and the complaint will be investigated, and the Employment Standard branch is the one who would be adjudicating those applications and complaints, and they will be making decision. Now, if employer is found to be guilty of not complying with the act, there are penalties also, in addition to the amounts owed to the workers. So I think I'm urging all of them to comply with the Employment Standard Act and follow it. We have simplified the process for them to file an application for variance, as long as the majority of the workers agree and the employer follow the rules. I think that is a win-win situation, because it's important. As I understand, as you mentioned, pandemic is something that we never anticipated. No one have ever anticipated. So it's a situation that we're all in, all new into this. So I think that's why they need to follow the rules, go to the employment standard, and ask for any question that they may have, because we have staff ready to help them.
Do you have a follow-up, Shannon?
Yes, I'm wondering what the timeline on that kind of process might be. And sorry if I missed this, but have there been any extra resources allocated to, smooth the process around these extension applications and then potentially disputes on this front as well?
Yes, so we did two things. One, that we have streamlined the process by making everything online, including the application, the sample letter, and also for workers' opportunity to vote online to show their support. That's one thing at the Employment Standard Branch we've done. The second piece is that in anticipation that there may be a surge of applications, and in order to process them in a timely fashion, we have trained 70 additional staff, which is they're working strictly on these extension applications. So they're ready to help. So far, all the applications that we received, it takes average of 3 days for applications to process and approval given. So it's a pretty simple process. Also, we have resources in the event that there's a surge capacity.
Next is Zara Premji from CBC. Go ahead, Zara.
Yes, thank you for taking our question, Minister. I want to go back to Lisa's question about the hotel workers that are outside the legislature right now. You said that you expect all employers to rehire those workers back. You need their experience, need their skills to win customers back. And you mentioned the report, but what is being done directly right now to address this situation? They are currently stuck. They're saying that they don't have anything to sort of support them in the future, and they're looking for answers now. So what's that sort of support other than conversations that have been had with them?
So it's. I think their voice wasn't very clear, but as I understand it, the workers that are outside Local 40, I met with them the other day and completely understand the situation they're in, and that's why I have appointed Sandra Bannister, a renowned labor lawyer, to talk to all the stakeholders, look at the situation and possible solutions, and for her to come back by August 20th to give me her report, and then we will take further steps if it need to be after I read that report.
Zara, do you have a follow-up? If you are using a headset, it might be best to change to the receiver if you do.
Can you hear me a little bit better now? All right. Well, I hope you can hear me. My follow-up question is just to see, like you mentioned, Sandra Bannister is doing this work to look at the possible solutions. But when you yourself are saying you do not want to see them lose their jobs, you want to see employers rehire them. If the report comes back and isn't in favor of the workers, what will you do next?
Well, I will not prejudge her recommendations. It's a very complicated and a complex situation because there are workers who have collective agreements in place, and their rights are determined by the terms of the collective agreement. Many of them have recall rights, 6 months to perhaps a year, maybe longer. And so their rights are determined by the collective agreement. That's why Sandra Bannister will look at the unionized workforce. She will also look at the non-union workforce. And she will look at the situation by talking to the unions and non-union workers and the hotel associations and other businesses, and come back with her findings. Then we'll make a decision after I read her report, and we'll take steps if a step needs to be taken.
Next, we'll go to Nelson Bennett from Business in Vancouver. Go ahead, Nelson.
Yes, Minister, I'm sure some businesses will be relieved to have this option. But as some are starting to discover, for those that have had to lay off employees permanently, they're discovering that the Employment Standards Act's obligations for severance actually don't mean much if the employee decides to go to court. I spoke to one business person who had 8 employees, had to temporarily lay off 4 during the pandemic, has hired 3 back, but said there's not enough work for the 4th. So she was permanently laid off, offered 8-week severance. She's demanding 18 months. And basically, he's saying that even if they whittle that down to half, he can't afford that. And so he'd have to close down. That's 7 more people laid off, 7 more people requiring severance. What do we do about that?
Well,
and the lawyer said he's got dozens of those cases.
I can't comment on individual cases, but Employment Standard Branch is equipped to deal with those issues, and employees have their rights and recourse if they believe that their rights are not being upheld. And they could go to Employment Standard. Employment Standard Branch will investigate the complaint, and decisions will be made. And I think that's the option available to the employer and to the employees, to ensure that their rights are protected, and if they're not, the Employment Standard Branch is the one that has the jurisdiction to investigate those complaints and make decisions based on that.
And do you have a follow-up, Nelson?
So even if the employee has hired a lawyer and is basically threatening to go to court, you're saying the Employment Standards Branch can still intervene?
Well, look, those are the legal proceedings. I can't comment on a personal basis, but I can tell you there is a process to follow. You go to the Employment Standard Branch first, and the decisions are made. Employment Standard Branch, after investigation, try to resolve the complaint to the satisfaction of both parties, And then if that is not sufficient, then there's a tribunal that they could go to. The tribunal will hear from both sides and make a decision. But like everything else, employer and employee have a right to go to court for judicial review. So those are normal processes, and whether it's a pandemic or not, I think those are the processes that I expect that both parties will follow.
Next is Lisa Yuzda from News 1130. Go ahead, Lisa.
Hi, Minister. I'm wondering, is there anything stopping employers, who are using the pandemic layoffs as an opportunity to call long-time high-salary workers, people without collective agreements, without that kind of bargaining power? Is there anything stopping them from doing this?
Okay, so that I understand the question correctly, does anything stop the employer not to recall a senior employee, rather they call a junior employee? Is that the question?
Or they just say that this layoff is permanent and then wait a few weeks and then hire someone at a much lower salary.
Okay, so I think there are a couple of streams. The temporary layoff extension that we have put in place until August 30th, that require individual employee to agree to stay on recall or take severance. That's an individual decision. And but if the employer and employee wants to use Section 72 to extend the temporary layoff beyond August 30th, then the majority of the workers will decide if they agree to go for the extension. So I think that's the decision of the employee and the employer. Employee can choose to take severance or stay on recall under the normal the temporary layoff provisions, or under Section 72, the majority workers must agree before the extension is given. But again, under the Employment Standard Act, there's no provision that the employer must recall them by line of seniority or who they recall back. But it's the recall rights the employee have negotiated or agreed to when they went to the Employment Standard Branch for extension.
Do you have a follow-up, Lisa?
So I'm wondering if you know the number of how many people in British Columbia are temporarily laid off right now because of the pandemic.
I don't have the numbers. As you know, the numbers are changing. In the beginning, the numbers like 380,000 workers were laid off. One time, those were the numbers. Then others went back. Then the next numbers were 250,000 were still unemployed. How many of them are under temporary layoff? I have to get that information for you. I don't have it offhand right now.
We have time for one more question. Mary Brooks from the West Shore Voice. Go ahead, Mary.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I was also going to ask, how many employees do you think would be affected if employers don't go for this temporary extension?
I think, like I said, if you look at how many employees were laid off in the beginning and how many employees are still on layoff, some businesses are going back within the time of the temporary layoff. But the exact numbers, we don't know. I could get that number. I don't know whether that is available, how many employees are on temporary layoff that would qualify within August 30th, or how many will be applying for extension beyond August 30th. So I think we have applications coming in the last few weeks. And there are applications that are being approved, but to get the exact numbers, how many are on layoff right now, I don't have that number right now. We could get that for you, if that's available.
Do you have another question, Mary?
Yes, and of the people who are still not back at work, do you have some idea of how many are unionized employees and how many are not?
Well, I think if you take a look, hotel industry, most of them were shut down. And there are 7 different unions. The Local 40 is one of them. Unifor is another. Majority of them are non-union. And just like every other workforce in BC, I think there's about 30% workers who are unionized in British Columbia overall, and about 70% non-union. And hotel industry, I think we could get the percentage exactly how many are unionized, how many are non-union, but majority of them are non-union in British Columbia in the hotel industry.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks very much, Minister.
Thank you.